The quantum transport pad hummed with a soft blue glow as Kim Do-young materialized at Earth's International Xenological University in Seoul. His tall, slender frame shimmered under the morning sun, iridescent blue skin casting rainbow reflections on the nearby walls. The transport pad powered down with a gentle whir, leaving him alone in the arrival chamber. Do-young took his first breath on Earth and immediately regretted it. His crystalline respiratory system, evolved for the thin atmosphere of Centauri, seized up in shock. The air here was thick, heavy, and rich with oxygen. Nothing like the carefully controlled environment he'd left behind. He stumbled forward, his normally graceful movements becoming clumsy as Earth's stronger gravity pulled at his limbs. The arrival chamber spun around him as his body struggled to adapt. Through blurring vision, he noted the primitive architecture, solid walls instead of energy fields, physical doors instead of matter gates. His people had warned him about Earth's technological backwardness, but experiencing it firsthand was different. "Welcome to Earth," he tried to say, but only managed a wheezing sound. His translator crystal flickered weakly at his throat. The room tilted sideways as his legs gave out. Professor Lee Jaya was walking past the arrival chamber when she heard the crash. She rushed in to find Do-young collapsed near the pad, his blue skin turning a sickly gray. Her years of experience with extraterrestrial students kicked in immediately. "Medical emergency in arrival chamber 3, she spoke into her comm band. "Centaurian student in atmospheric distress. Need immediate assistance and environmental controls." Do-young could barely focus on the human approaching him. Her small frame and pink-tinted skin seemed alien to his eyes. He tried to access his emergency protocols, but the crushing gravity made even thinking difficult. "Stay calm," Jaya said, kneeling beside him. "Help is coming. Try to take shallow breaths." She pulled out a portable atmospheric modifier from her bag, standard equipment for xenological faculty. The device created a small bubble of thinner air around Do-young's head. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. His crystal respiratory system stopped its painful spasming, though breathing remained difficult. "I miscalculated," he managed to say through his translator. "Earth's environment is more intense than our simulations suggested." Jaya smiled kindly. "It happens more often than you'd think. Our planet can be overwhelming for first-time visitors." The medical team arrived quickly, their hover stretcher humming softly. Do-young noticed they used both Earth tech and adapted alien medical devices, an interesting mix he hadn't expected from a primitive world. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, Do-young's scientific mind began cataloging his symptoms despite his discomfort. The gravity was 1.3 times stronger than Centauri's, the oxygen levels nearly double. How did humans function in such conditions? More importantly, how had they advanced so far in such a challenging environment? "Professor," he called out as they prepared to move him. "Will this delay my studies?" Jaya's eyes crinkled with amusement. "Already thinking about classes? You'll fit right in here." She patted his arm gently. "Rest now. We'll talk about your schedule once you're stable." As they rushed him to the medical center, Do-young caught glimpses of the campus through the windows. Students of various species walked together, talking and laughing. Human buildings reached toward the sky, their design blending natural elements with modern functionality. It wasn't the primitive world he'd expected. Maybe, he thought as consciousness began to fade, there was more to learn here than just his official studies. His last sight before passing out was a human child waving at him from a nearby park, showing no fear or prejudice toward his alien appearance. Earth, it seemed, would be full of surprises #medicine beyond technology. The stark white halls of Seoul Metropolitan Hospital buzzed with activity as Dr. Park, Sun-ho, stared at the readings from Do-young's medical pod. The Centaurian student's crystalline respiratory system was failing, unable to process Earth's dense atmosphere. Traditional treatments weren't working, and the hospital's alien life support systems were struggling to recreate Centaurian air conditions. "His system is rejecting our atmospheric regulators," Sun Ho explained to the medical team. The synthetic environment isn't stable enough. He watched as Do Young's vital signs continued to fluctuate dangerously. A message flashed on his screen. The Centaurian Medical Council, demanding a transfer of their student to a proper medical facility. Sun Ho's jaw tightened. He'd read their attached note dismissing Earth's medical capabilities as primitive. But Sun Ho had an idea. Years of studying both modern medicine and traditional Korean healing practices had taught him that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best. He remembered how certain minerals, when combined with specific herbs, could change their molecular structure. "Get me access to the hospital's mineral storage," he ordered, "and contact the traditional medicine department. I need their herb collection." His team worked through the night. They crushed earth crystals into fine powder, mixing them with carefully selected medicinal herbs. Sun Ho's hands moved quickly, combining ancient knowledge with modern science. He used heat and pressure to forge the mixture into a crystalline structure similar to Do Young's respiratory system. The Centaurian Council representatives arrived just as Sun Ho was ready to test his creation. They watched with barely hidden skepticism as he placed the crystal formation near Do Young's breathing apparatus. "This is your solution," one of them asked. "Rocks and plants." Sun Ho ignored them, focusing on the readings. The new crystal began to glow softly, creating a perfect molecular bridge between Earth's atmosphere and Do Young's respiratory system. It filtered and converted the air into something his body could process. Do Young's vital signs stabilized for the first time since his arrival. His skin returned to its healthy blue sheen, and his breathing became regular. The Centaurian representatives fell silent, their data pads recording everything. When Do Young opened his eyes, he found himself breathing easily. The crushing weight of Earth's atmosphere had transformed into something comfortable, familiar. "How?" he asked, touching the glowing crystal near his chest. "This shouldn't be possible with Earth's technology level." Sun Ho smiled. "Sometimes the best technology isn't about complexity. It's about understanding the basic principles of how things work." He explained how the crystal used Earth's natural elements to create a perfect atmospheric conversion. The Centaurian Council members huddled in the corner, furiously discussing among themselves. Their earlier dismissal had turned to intense interest. One of them approached Sun Ho. "We would like to study this solution of yours," they said carefully. "It seems we may have underestimated Earth's medical capabilities." Do Young watched the exchange with growing fascination. "On Centauri, we would have tried to build a complex machine," he said. "But you found an answer in simple things we would have overlooked." As Sun Ho documented the treatment for future reference, he knew this was more than just a medical breakthrough. It was a bridge between two worlds, proof that progress didn't always mean complexity. Do Young was released from the hospital 3 days later, the small crystal converter now a permanent part of his Earth survival gear. He looked at the simple device with new respect, understanding that sometimes the most advanced solutions came from the most basic foundations. The Centaurian Medical Council's final report noted that perhaps it was time to re-examine their definition of primitive medicine. Sometimes, they concluded, looking backward was the best way to move forward, #learning through differences. Do Young sat in his dorm room, watching his human roommate Choi Ta-won play a virtual reality game. The concept of entertainment still puzzled him. On Centauri, free time was spent on academic improvement or meditation. "Want to try?" Ta-won offered, holding out the VR headset. Do Young hesitated, his crystalline fingers touching the unfamiliar device. "I should be studying," he said, but Ta-won's friendly smile made him reconsider. The game turned out to be a physics simulator, where players could manipulate virtual matter. Do Young found himself enjoying it, especially when Ta-won showed him how humans used it to visualize complex scientific concepts. In class the next day, Do Young struggled with the human teaching method. Instead of downloading information directly into their minds like on Centauri, students here talked, debated, and drew pictures. It seemed terribly inefficient. Then he watched Song Hannah approach a quantum mechanics problem. Instead of using standard calculation methods, she drew a colorful diagram on her holopad, using shapes and patterns to represent quantum states. The professor encouraged this, calling it creative problem solving. "This isn't proper procedure," Du-young whispered to Ta-won. "How can random drawing solve quantum equations?" "Watch," Ta-won replied. Hannah's visualization revealed patterns that Du-young's rigid Centaurian methods had missed. She solved the problem in half the time, using an approach that would have been considered chaotic on his world. During lunch break, Du-young found himself surrounded by human students in the cafeteria. Their habit of eating together, sharing food, and talking about non-academic subjects initially seemed like a waste of time. But he noticed how these informal gatherings led to unexpected collaborations and ideas. "You see," Ta-won explained, sharing his spicy ramyeon with Du-young, "humans learn better when we're relaxed and having fun. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding and making connections." Do-young watched Hannah join their table, her holopad full of more colorful quantum visualizations. She showed him how she translated complex mathematical concepts into visual patterns, something his Centaurian teachers would have never allowed. "But it's not standardized," Du-young protested, even as he found himself drawn to her methods. "How can you ensure consistent results?" Hannah laughed. "That's the point. Everyone finds their own way to understand. Look at this." She quickly sketched a quantum entanglement problem, using swirling patterns that somehow made perfect sense. Over the next few weeks, Du-young found himself adopting some of these inefficient human methods. He joined study groups, participated in casual discussions, and even started creating his own visualization patterns. His grades improved, not despite these changes, but because of them. His understanding deepened as he learned to see problems from multiple angles, not just the correct Centaurian way. One evening, as he sat with Ta-won playing another educational game, Du-young realized something important. The humans' seemingly chaotic approach to learning wasn't primitive, it was adaptive. Their creativity came from necessity, from learning to thrive in an unpredictable world. "Maybe," he said to Ta-won, "efficiency isn't everything." Ta-won grinned, handing him another slice of pizza, another human custom he'd grown to appreciate. "Now you're getting it. Want to join our quantum visualization club? Hannah's teaching us some new techniques tomorrow." Do-young agreed, his crystal converter humming softly as he laughed. Another very human habit he picked up. Campus life on Earth was teaching him more than just academics. It was showing him a whole new way of thinking, #innovation through collaboration. The planetary engineering lab buzzed with energy as Kang Mairei announced the project teams. Du-young found himself paired with Yoon Jinwoo, a quiet student known for studying plant behaviors. An unusual choice, he thought, for a planetary-scale energy project. "Your task," Mairei explained, "is to design a clean energy system that could power a small city. You have 8 weeks." Do-young immediately pulled out his crystal computing device. "Centaurian energy matrices are 89% efficient. We should start there." Jinwoo shook his head, pulling up images of tree leaves. "Look at how plants handle energy," he said. "They're not the most efficient, but they're adaptable and self-repairing." Do-young almost dismissed the idea, but remembered his recent lessons about human creativity. "Explain more," he said, watching Jinwoo's eyes light up. Over the next few days, they studied how Earth plants converted sunlight into energy. Jinwoo showed Do-young how leaves adjusted their position throughout the day, how they healed damage, how they worked together in forests. "But photosynthesis is only 1% efficient," Do-young argued. "My crystals are better." "Efficiency isn't everything," Jinwoo replied, reminding Do-young of his own recent revelation. "What if we combined both approaches?" They worked late into nights, merging concepts. Do-young's crystals could capture energy like his people's technology, but they restructured them to mimic leaf patterns. Jin Wu added self-repair mechanisms inspired by plant cells. The breakthrough came when they discovered that arranging the crystals in natural patterns, like leaves on a tree, actually improved their efficiency. The system could also adapt to changing conditions, something rigid Centaurian designs couldn't do. Mei watched their progress with growing interest. "You're creating something entirely new," she said, examining their prototype. The crystal array glowed with a soft green light, its structure flowing and organic despite its alien materials. When they tested the system, the results shocked everyone. Their hybrid design was 95% efficient, better than pure Centaurian technology. More importantly, it could heal damage and adapt to different environments. "This shouldn't work," Du Young said, staring at the data. "It goes against everything I was taught about proper energy system design." Jin Wu smiled. "Maybe that's why it does work. We didn't follow anyone's rules." As they prepared their presentation, Du Young realized how much his thinking had changed. He'd started the project believing Centaurian technology was superior. Now he saw how combining different approaches could create something better than either civilization had achieved alone. The project evaluation committee included both Earth and Centaurian scientists. Du Young watched their faces as he and Jin Wu explained their design. The Earth scientists nodded with appreciation, while the Centaurians looked increasingly uncomfortable. "This is unorthodox," one Centaurian evaluator said. "It doesn't follow established principles." "No," Du Young agreed. "It's better than established principles." He felt a new confidence as he defended their work, explaining how nature's solutions could improve even advanced technology. The project earned them top marks and immediate interest from both Earth and Centaurian energy companies. But for Du Young, the real achievement was personal. He'd learned to question his people's rigid thinking, to see value in approaches he once would have dismissed as primitive. As he and Jin Wu celebrated with Earth-style pizza, another combination he'd grown to appreciate, Du Young realized that true innovation came from being open to new ideas, no matter their source. When seconds count. The warning sirens wailed across Seoul as the city's atmospheric shield flickered dangerously. A massive solar storm, 3 times stronger than predicted, battered Earth's defenses. In the university's emergency control center, Du Young watched the main shield generators fail one by one. "The backup systems aren't responding," Kang Mei announced, her fingers flying over the control panels. "We have 30 minutes before radiation levels become dangerous." The room erupted into activity. Mei's team scrambled to find a solution while city officials began evacuation procedures. Du Young noticed something strange about her approach. Instead of following standard emergency protocols, she was gathering seemingly random items. "What are you doing?" he asked, watching her collect microwave parts and old kitchen appliances. "Your crystal converter," she said, pointing to the device on his chest. "It modifies atmospheric conditions, right? We need to scale that up. Quickly." Understanding dawned. They couldn't fix the shield generators in time, but maybe they could create something new. Du Young quickly removed his crystal converter, careful to maintain his personal atmosphere bubble. Mei's team worked with controlled chaos. They stripped magnetrons from microwaves, repurposed refrigerator cooling systems, and modified broadcasting equipment from the university radio station. Du Young helped them understand how his crystal technology worked, amazed at how quickly they adapted it for their needs. "The crystals can channel energy," he explained, "but they'll shatter under this much power." "Not if we distribute the load," Mei said, sketching a pattern. Like a spider web, she arranged the makeshift devices in a circular pattern across the city's rooftops, connecting them through modified power lines. Time ticked away. Radiation levels crept higher. The team worked frantically, jury-rigging connections and programming on the fly. Du Young had never seen technology used so creatively, or so terrifyingly far from its intended purpose. With 5 minutes remaining, they activated their improvised system. The crystals hummed, their energy linking through the web of repurposed appliances. A new kind of shield formed, not the solid barrier of before, but a flexible network that bent and flowed with the solar storm. It's working, Du Young said in disbelief, watching the radiation readings drop. But this is impossible. None of these components were designed for this. Mayray smiled grimly. Sometimes impossible is all we've got. The makeshift shield held through the worst of the storm. When official repair crews arrived hours later, they found a city protected by microwave parts, modified crystals, and human ingenuity. The Centaurian Engineering Council demanded a full report. They couldn't understand how such a primitive solution had succeeded where their advanced technology had failed. Du Young tried to explain about human adaptability, about thinking beyond established solutions, but some concepts couldn't be captured in technical language. Later, as the city returned to normal, Du Young helped Mayray document their emergency solution. On Centauri, he said, we would have evacuated rather than try something so uncertain. Sometimes uncertainty is our best option, she replied. Humans learned that long ago. We survive by adapting, by making crazy ideas work. Du Young looked at his crystal converter, now forever changed by its integration with Earth technology. Like him, it had become something new, something better. Through the crisis, he was beginning to understand that true advancement came not from perfecting existing systems, but from being brave enough to try the impossible, #breaking new ground. Du Young sat in Professor Lee Jaya's office, surrounded by months of research data. His findings painted a startling picture that challenged everything he believed about technological progress. Earth achieved in 300 years what took Centauri 3,000, he explained, showing Jaya his charts. Despite our superior technology, we've barely advanced in the last century. Jaya studied the data carefully. The graphs showed Earth's chaotic but rapid development compared to Centauri's perfectly planned but slow progress. What do you think causes this difference? She asked. Chaos, Du Young replied, his crystal converter glowing softly as he spoke. Human unpredictability drives innovation. We Centaurians plan everything perfectly, but that's become our weakness. His research paper documented numerous examples. The recent shield crisis, where humans saved the city with kitchen appliances. The medical crystal that combined ancient herbs with advanced technology. Even the simple way humans taught through discussion and debate rather than direct knowledge transfer. Our perfection has become a cage, he wrote in his conclusion. While Centauri follows predetermined paths, Earth thrives on uncertainty. Humans don't just solve problems, they redefine them. The Centaurian Science Council requested an emergency meeting when they received his draft. Their holographic forms flickered with agitation as Du Young presented his findings. You claim our methodical approach is flawed, one council member asked, clearly disturbed. Not flawed, Du Young corrected. Limited. Look at Earth's energy grid. It's messy, interconnected, adaptable. Ours is perfect but rigid. When something breaks, humans improvise. We simply shut down. He showed them recordings of human students brainstorming, arguing, making mistakes, and finding unexpected solutions. Each example demonstrated how apparent chaos led to breakthrough moments. Even their failures drive progress, he explained. They learn from mistakes. We avoid mistakes entirely and lose the chance to learn. The council's reaction was predictable. They called his research unstructured and compromised by human influence. But they couldn't ignore the data. Earth's advancement rate was undeniable. Professor Jaya helped Du Young refine his paper, adding historical context about how Earth's greatest discoveries often came from accidents or mistakes. The atomic theory, penicillin, radioactivity, all found through unexpected paths. Your people see chaos as a flaw, she said, but it's more like water. It finds new paths, shapes the landscape, creates possibilities. Du Young included his own transformation as evidence. His rigid Centaurian thinking had evolved through exposure to human methods. He learned to question, to explore, to embrace uncertainty. The final paper, titled Chaos Theory, Earth's Path to Innovation, sent shockwaves through Centaurian academic circles. Some dismissed it outright, but others began questioning their society's approach to progress. Perhaps, Du Young concluded, true advancement requires both order and chaos, structure and creativity. Earth's greatest strength isn't their technology. It's their willingness to explore the unknown. His research became required reading at the university, sparking debates about the nature of progress itself. For Du Young, it marked a turning point in his understanding of both human and Centaurian nature, #a bridge between worlds. The university auditorium buzzed with excitement as Du Young began his first lecture as a permanent faculty member. His iridescent blue skin caught the morning light, and his crystal converter hummed softly as he surveyed the diverse crowd of human and alien students. 5 years ago, I arrived here believing Earth was primitive, he began. Today, I stand before you as proof that understanding comes from opening our minds to new possibilities. Working alongside Dr. Park Sun-ho, Du Young had created a new department focusing on cross-species innovation. Their first project combined Earth's biomimicry principles with Centaurian crystal technology, creating sustainable solutions for both worlds. The Centaurian Council had initially opposed his decision to stay on Earth. They worried about cultural contamination and the loss of their rigid traditions. But Du Young's thesis on human adaptive advantage had sparked a revolution in Centaurian thinking. Earth taught me that progress isn't about perfection, he explained to his students. It's about adaptation, creativity, and learning from mistakes. His hybrid teaching style reflected this philosophy. He combined Centaurian precision with human creativity, encouraging students to question established theories and explore new possibilities. The results were remarkable. Breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and environmental protection that neither species could have achieved alone. Du Young's presence on Earth changed more than just academics. As the first Centaurian permanent resident, he became a cultural bridge. He hosted dinner parties where humans and Centaurians shared meals and ideas, breaking down centuries of prejudice through simple conversation. Your ways seemed chaotic to me once, he told a group of visiting Centaurian officials. Now I understand that chaos is just another word for possibility. His personal life reflected this transformation. He learned to enjoy Earth music, developed a taste for spicy food, modified for his crystalline digestive system, and even adopted a cat, something unthinkable for his formerly rigid mindset. The success of his work led to changes on Centauri too. Universities there began incorporating Earth-style discussion groups and creative problem-solving techniques. Young Centaurians increasingly questioned their society's rigid structures, inspired by stories of Earth's adaptability. We don't need to abandon our nature, Du Young wrote in his follow-up paper. We need to expand it. Earth's greatest gift to us is showing that difference breeds strength. As years passed, Du Young's influence grew. His students went on to create innovations that benefited both worlds. His research center became a model for cross-species collaboration, proving that understanding could triumph over prejudice. On his 5th anniversary as a permanent resident, Du Young stood at his office window, watching human and Centaurian students walking together across campus. His crystal converter, now modified with Earth technology, hummed in harmony with the city's energy grid. Sometimes, he told Dr. Park Sun-ho, the best way to honor our traditions is to help them grow. His transformation from shocked exchange student to respected professor marked more than personal growth. It showed how understanding could bridge the gaps between worlds, one small change at a time.